Hello, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Fifty-five candidates have joined this class right now. Schemes, fixed bias, self bias, potential divider bias, common gate configuration, and some special cases are also there. Like whenever we consider RD equals to zero, whenever we consider VGS equals to zero. For depletion type MOSFET, fixed bias, and potential divider biasing are there. And for enhancement type of MOSFET, feedback configuration bias, that is drain to gate feedback configuration, and then potential divider bias. So there are several biasing schemes specifically for JFET, depletion type MOSFET, and enhancement type MOSFET. We will study one by one each and every kind of configuration. Okay, and let me check your syllabus first. Which biasing scheme is there in your syllabus? This depletion enhancement, construction, principal operation, transfer characteristics done. JPET is done. FET amplifier, FET biasing configuration, low frequency FET. We have to study about FET biasing configuration only. Okay. Low frequency small signal model analysis of FET amplifier without feedback. Okay, fine. We have to go for in your syllabus this black color portion is the present only. Okay, so you have to study about these 3 to 4 types of biasing scheme for FET. Ah, let me check. This is FET. Okay, we'll consider MOSFET as well. FET. We'll consider okay all kind of biasing scheme we will study. This depletion as well as enhancement type. Okay. So first one in the case of JFET, this is fixed bias circuit. And generally we know that there is gate to source voltage, VGS plus minus, and there is drain to source voltage, that is VDS. Okay, for DC analysis, we will remove all the capacitances and simply we make the circuit like this. Fine. Okay, and this is VDS, this is BGS, this is RG minus plus this is BGG, and this is BDD plus this is RD, and this current flows through this ID. An important point, you know what? ID remains approximately equals to IS. Here in the case of, because IG is approximately 0. Fine. So if you apply this for DC analysis, for DC analysis, this is the configuration, and this ID approximately remains IS because IC is approximately 0. So if this is the case, in that case, 60 candidates have joined only. Okay, so we can apply, and how we can achieve D? We are already having one current equation, that is ID equals to ID SS 1 minus BGS over BP whole square. This is Shockley's equation. From this equation, we will put the value of everything VGS, VP, and IDSS. Then we can find out the value of ID. Okay, and in the similar way, we can go for that. Like if we apply KVL in this loop. So if we apply KVL in this loop, so we can find, since this IG is 0 for DC biasing of JFET, so it becomes plus VGG plus VGS equals to 0. So in that case, we can say VGS equals to minus VGG. Okay. So we have calculated BGS from here, and we can put this value of BGS in this current equation, and VP generally we know, and we can calculate the value of ID. Okay, so this is one equation, and second equation we can draw like at this loop. Okay, at the output loop, so it will become minus VDD plus ID RD plus DDS equals to 0. And from here we can calculate the value of BTS equals to BDD minus ID RD. Okay, and simply this Vs, if this is the voltage at the source terminal, then if Vs equals to 0, because this is directly grounded, so we can say like VDS equals to VD minus Vs. VDS equals to BD minus PS, and Vs is 0, so it will be equals to BD. Okay, in the similar manner, VGS equals to, so this is second equation. This is equation number 7. In the similar manner, you can see here like VGS equals to VG minus BS. VS is 0, so VGS equals to VG. Okay, so everything you can calculate here in this manner, so you can solve a numerical. It will be very easy to understand. Fine, so you have to find out like this is the numerical, this is question. Okay, this is grounded, minus plus, this is 2 volts, this is 1 mega ohm, this is 2 kilo ohm, and here this is plus minus BGS, this is plus minus BTS, and you have to calculate first BGS Q, IDQ, VDS, BD, BGVS, BD, BG, VS. You have to calculate these parameters. So solution you can provide, you can solve it like Directly we can apply one equation, since in this configuration Ig equals to 0 for DC analysis, and this voltage is given like 16 volt, okay, plus 16 volt. So we can say VGS equals to minus VGG. Here, if we apply KVL in this loop, this is VGG, okay, and this will provide us the value of VGS equals to minus 2 volt. Is that fine? And we know that Vs equals to 0. So VGSQ becomes minus 2 volt. This is solved. Now we have to calculate the value of IDQ. Okay. And one more thing you have given in the numerical, like this is given in numerical, VP equals to minus 8 volts, and IDSS equals to 10 milliampere. Fine. So directly we can put the value in current equation, Shockley's equation, that is IDSS 1 minus BGS over VP whole square. And we can directly calculate the value of drain current, that is 10 into 10 raised to the power minus 3. 1 minus VGS equals to, this becomes plus 8 volt divided by, VGS equals to minus 2 volt. This is 2 and this is minus 8. Okay, square. So finally 1 by 4, 3 by 4 equals to 3 by 4 into 10 raised to the power minus 3. Okay, so this will be the current. Okay, fine, and it will become like 4 tie. It will become, you can calculate this, it is around something. This is square, no? Square, 3 by 4 is square. So you can calculate it by using a calculator. Okay, and next thing you have to calculate, that is BDS. So you can apply KVL in the output loop. So minus 16 plus 2 into 10 raised to the power 3 into 10 ID minus plus BDS. BDS equals to 0. From this equation you can calculate the value of BDS. I hope this is very easy. And next one is you have to calculate BD. Since BS equals to 0 volt, so you can calculate BDS equals to BD minus BS equals to BD. BDS you will provide BD, and the similar manner BGS equals to BG minus BS. It becomes 0, so it will be BG, and BS is 0 already in this fixed bias configuration. So this numerical is very easy. I don't think there is any doubt in this configuration. Fixed bias configuration of JFET. Okay. Is there any doubt? Everyone is sleeping. Aviraj Singh Chauhan.
No, sir.
Okay. Aviraj Singh Chauhan.
Sir, actually, I just joined the meeting, so sir, I was not able to the previous thing that you taught.
Okay. Golu Kumar. Only there. First one, that IG remains 0. So ID becomes equals to IS. This is first assumption. That only require, and VS equals to 0 because this is directly grounded. So two assumptions are there. So if you know these two assumptions, then simple KVL you can apply and you can solve the numerical related to this fixed bias. Fine, this is very easy. Fine. Next one is second biasing, that is self-bias configuration. Self-bias configuration. Okay, what is the self-bias configuration? Simply one resistance is connected over here and another resistance is connected over here, RS. In fixed bias configuration, no resistance was connected at the source terminal, but in self-bias configuration, we connect one resistance at the source. And in the fixed bias configuration, when battery source was connected at the gate terminal, that is being called as that was being called as VGG, but here this is grounded. Okay, and this is plus VDD, and here you can collect the output. Fine, and as usual, this is VDS, and this is VGS plus minus. I don't think there is any problem. Okay, and you know one thing, like this always in the case of FET, IG remains zero, approximately zero. So potential drop across this resistance becomes nothing. Okay, so we can make another equivalent circuit for this self-bias configuration, and here it becomes like this is, and this resistance will be having no significance because no current is passing through this resistance, and already it will be providing us a zero potential drop because Ig is equals to zero. So Is Rs is there, and this terminal is grounded. This is VGS plus minus. This is VDS plus minus, and this is RD, and this is plus VDD, and one current that flows through ID, that is ID, and this is IS. And another assumption that we know very well, that is ID equals to IS because Ig equals to zero. Okay, fine. Rest of the things are similar like that in the previous version. So here we can see like if we apply KVL in this loop. So this loop KVL provides plus VGS plus IS into RS equals to 0. And finally, we can get VGS equals to minus yes, IS becomes minus ID into RS. I don't think there is any problem. Okay, so we have calculated the value of VGS here, and already BP is given to you and IDSS is given to you. So in that case, directly you can put the Shuckler's equation, that is ID equals to IDSS 1 minus from the value of ID. And one more thing, this is depending upon ID as well. So you will put this value like that, IDSS so you will find a quadratic equation. You see here, you will find the second order equation. Is that clear to you? This is somehow a quadratic equation.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you have to find out the roots of this quadratic equation, then you can solve. Okay, and you have to check the value of particular current. So this will be somehow little bit like ID goes to IDSS by 2 approximately in this configuration. This is approximately equals to IDSS by 2. Fine, and if you put this value of ID equals to IDSS by 2 here, and directly you can find VGS. And once you have calculated VGS, then you can apply this equation, KVL equation, in the output loop. So if I apply KVL equation in output loop, so I'm applying it here. This is equation number 1. This is first part. Second part I'm writing over here with the green color. Okay, and this is now you can apply plus VDD, like plus VDD plus minus VDD, sorry, minus VDD plus IDRS, IDRD plus VDS plus IDRS equals to 0. You are having IDRD, IDRS, VDD. You can find the value of VDS. I don't think there is any problem. Okay, this is second equation. As well as here the VS equals to ID into RS. Okay, I hope this is clear to you because this is the potential drop here, VS. This is BG and this is BD. So you can calculate the value, and BG is 0. Here, if you calculate BG, then VG is directly short circuited to ground. So in this configuration in self bias, VG equals to 0 volt. So VT you can calculate directly. Okay, let me solve one numerical. You will easily understand this. So question is given to you. This is question numerical is given to you, and this is Rg, and this is Rd equals to 3.3 kilo ohm. This is Rs equals to 1 kilo ohm, and Rg equals to 1 mega ohm, and plus VDD equals to, you can understand, this is 20 volt. Okay, and you have given Vp equals to minus 6 volt, and IDSS equals to, this is 8 milliampere. Fine, and what is else given? Nothing. Okay, fine. So simply the first step, very first step, you know, this Ig equals to 0, and Ig equals to 0, this will lead to provide you Id equals to Is. Fine, this is clear, and this will be Id, this will be Is. Id will be equals to Is, and if there is no current, so we can make some equivalent circuit for this transistor, and this resistance will be short circuit because there is no current in this branch. So this becomes 1 kilo ohm, this is 3.3 kilo ohm, and this resistance will be having no significance because this is Ig equals to 0. This is Id, and this is plus minus VDS, this is plus minus VGS, and this is VS. Okay, fine. So now we can apply this equation, and we know that Vg equals to minus Id into Rs if we apply KVL over here in this loop, and this is Is, Id or Is, fine. So VGS, we can calculate this VGS like that, fine. And here this is the quadratic equation. This is the quadratic equation. Id equals to IDSS 1 minus VGS over PP. If you will put this value of VGS here, you will find a quadratic equation. In that case, you have to find out, you will find out the value of ID. There will be two values, alpha and beta, because this is second order equation. Okay, so if you choose, and one more thing, this is already I have explained, this one of the root will be approximately equals to ID equals to IDSS by 2. This I explained this. Okay, so one of the root will be approximately equals to either alpha or beta will be equals to IDSS by 2. So IDSS already given to you, this is 8 milliampere, so you can directly put this value ID approximately 4 milliampere. Without solving, without going to find out the solution of this equation, this is a lengthy process, you can directly choose this value. Okay, if you choose this value, then you can calculate the value of BGS from here. Okay, I don't think there is any problem in calculation. Fine. So here you have to calculate some parameters like BGS, Q, ID, BDS, BS, BG, and BD. These parameters you have to calculate. Fine. And so you have calculated BGS. BGS equals to 4 minus 4 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 into RS is 1 kilo ohm, 10 raised to the power 3. So it is 4 volt, minus 4 volt. VGS is minus 4 volt. I don't think there is any problem now. Okay, and then you can go for this ID. ID you have collected already. This is around 4 milliampere. Now VDS. For finding the VDS, this you can apply out this KVL at output row, and this will be minus VDS minus VDD plus ID into 3.3 into 10 raised to the power 3 and plus BDS. Okay, and plus ID into RS. RS is 1 kilo ohm, goes to 0. So you put the value of ID, RS, ID, BDD, you will find BDS. I don't think this is very difficult process. Okay, next one is you have to calculate the value of Vs. So Vs is simply ID into Rs. At this point, this is Vs, this is Vg, and this is Vd. Okay, so Vs directly you can calculate the value Vs. Next point is Vg. So if Vgs equals to Vg minus Vs, Vs you know, and Vgs you know, you can calculate the value of Vg. Okay, so in this case, how much is the value of Vg? This will with this Vg will be approximately equals to 0 volt because this is already short circuited to the ground. Okay, next one is Vd. So next one is BD, and you can calculate BD by BDS, BD minus BS. VDS equals to BD minus BS, then it will be PS. And BS you know, and BDS you know, you can calculate BD. Now, do you have any problem in this numerical?
No, sir.
Well, this is very
No, sir.
yes. Configuration is done. So next configuration is voltage divider biasing. These all things are very easy. You just have to apply KVL, KCL, and you have to keep the circuit in your brain. Directly put the circuit on paper. Directly write the equation. This will be very easy part. So I think diode was the only thing that you have to understand, and rest of the things in second unit and third unit, all things are very easy. And potential divider biasing, you know well, I think from BJT. This is potential divider biasing. You already know what is that potential divider biasing. RD, RS, R1, R2. Here you collect output, and this is plus PDD, and here you apply some input PI. Fine. So in the similar way, we'll try to solve this numerical. We'll find this PG using Thevenin's theorem. Using Thevenin's theorem, we can calculate this potential Vg, and Vg will be voltage across this resistance R2. This Vg. Okay. So this is Vg equals to, this is BDD into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Is there any problem? Tell me if there is any problem.
No, sir.
Yes, this is very easy. You can solve it. And finally, you can make some equivalent circuit here, and that equivalent circuit will be like this is R1, this is RD, and this is plus BDD, this is RS, Okay, and this voltage is B plus minus. This is R2. Okay, now you know this Ig goes to 0. Ig goes to 0 in this case of FET. Okay, so you can see this R1 and R2 will be behaving like similar current will be flowing through these two resistances R1 and R2, and it will be ID and it will be ID because ID equals to IS when Ig equals to 0. So always keep this in your brain. Ig equals to 0, so ID equals to IS. Okay, and directly you can put one KVL in this loop. So if you write the KVL, then in that case it becomes Vg minus Vg plus Vgs plus IDRs equals to 0. Okay, so you can calculate the value of VGS from this equation, that is VG minus IDRs. This is equation number 1. I don't think there is any problem. Okay. And finally, you can apply one KVL equation in the output loop. So it becomes minus VDD plus IDRD plus BDS plus IDRS equals to 0. And you can calculate, you can put this value of RD, you can calculate the value of BDS from here. And IDS you can calculate by using that current equation, Shockley's equation. Already you know. Okay, so let me solve a numerical that it will be very easy to understand. Numerical. So okay, this is like that. And finally, IDSS is given 8 milliampere and Vp is given minus 4 volt. So you have to calculate the value IDQ and BGSQ, BD, BS, BDS and BDG. Okay, you have to calculate these values. And finally, okay, let me solve this. First, we have to calculate this value VG. Okay, and then VG becomes, know this, 16 into 270 into 10 raised to the power 3 over 2.1 into 10 raised to the power 6 plus 270 into 10 raised to the power 3. So you can calculate this value VG. Okay, now you can apply KVL over here. Then minus VG plus VGS plus ID into RS equals to 0. VG you can put and you can calculate the value of VGS. Now you need ID, and from where ID you can calculate? ID you can calculate. You have to calculate ID by specific procedure. Okay, this is very important. You try to learn this. In potential divider biasing, first step, you consider ID equals to 0. This is very important to understand. In the first case, you consider id equals to 0. Okay, so for putting this value, after putting this value id equals to 0, you can calculate the value of vgs equals to vg, like that. Fine. And once you put this value, second case you have to put vgs equals to 0. Okay, once you put vgs equals to 0, you will calculate the value of id. Okay, so this will give you vgs and this will give you id equals to vg over r. Fine. So this is like a mutual relation. If you draw the characteristics of this, in this case of potential divider biasing, so this becomes a mutual relation. First you put this id equals to 0, second you put vgs equals to 0, and one by one you can calculate the value of vgs and id by assuming one value at a time. Okay, so in this case you can calculate, you can put these values and you can calculate the relations, final value. Fine. And finally you will calculate, I think you can calculate the value of these two parameters. Okay, and finally you can go for that and this equation at the output loop, and this will become plus 16 volt minus 16 plus id into 2.4 into 10 raised to the power 3 plus vds plus id into 1.5 into 10 raised to the power 3 equals to 0. So you can calculate the value of vds as well. Okay, and simply vs equals to id into rs, vs equals to id into rs, and then everything you can calculate. vds you calculated, vs calculated, vd, vdc. So I don't think there is any problem. Can you calculate this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Easy. Next one is common gate configuration of FET. Common gate configuration. And this configuration, till now you were studying this common source configuration. You see, everything is common source. Okay, in different kind of biasing. Now you will study the common gate configuration. And what is that common gate configuration? Simply you are having FET. Okay, FET like this. And here you apply one resistance and plus minus. This is VDD. This is RD. Okay, and here you apply one resistance. RD. One resistance you apply and one battery you apply. Okay, and this battery is grounded. Minus plus. This is called BSS. And this is gate terminal and this is combined grounded. Fine. And here you apply input Vi and here you collect the output. and IDSS is given to you and BP is given to you. This is common gate configuration because gate is common between source and drain. Fine. So this is called common gate configuration. I don't think there is any problem if you apply KVL, like this is source, this is drain, and this is minus plus VGS. Okay, and this one is BDS plus minus BDS. So we can apply one KVL equation over here. So plus BSS plus BSS, and then not here exactly, like if we apply one current, okay, like if we assume currents, different currents here, so this will be ID, okay, and this current will be IS. Fine. So we can, this current for DC coupling we can go for this current is IS, and this current will be ID across this resistance. Fine. So in this case we can go for this BSS minus this IS into this is RS and minus BGS equals to 0, and BGS you can calculate like BSS minus ISRS, and simply you know that IG equals to 0, so ID is approximately equals to IS, so BGS equals to BSS minus ID into RS. This is first equation. Fine. And second equation you can calculate like by putting this value, applying condition. First condition you apply like in potential divider bias, ID equals to 0. If you put ID equals to 0, you will find BGS equals to BSS. Okay, and if you in second condition you have to put BGS equals to 0. So in this case you will find ID equals to BSS over R. Fine. So these are two conditions like similar in potential divider bias you have to apply, and you can calculate the value of BGS and IDS. And once, okay, let me explain the concept of Q point here. Let me explain the concept of Q point. Like do you remember these conditions? This characteristic BS and ID. This was the transfer characteristics of this FET, and this potential was known as VP, and this was ID. Okay, so like in transistor characteristics, we were drawing a DC load line. In the similar way, we draw a DC load line here and we try to determine the Q point by biasing. And here it was BDS. Fine. So you think if we draw a line over here, like generally we need that transistor must operate somewhere in center point. somewhere in center of the transfer characteristics. So we draw a DC line, load line like that. In the case of transistor, we were drawing that was DC load line was passing through the active region. So here we also draw DC load line like that it must pass this from the center of this characteristics. Okay, and this point is known as Q point. Q point. This point is Q point. Fine. And here this is called whenever VGS equals to 0 volt. So this is called ID equals to this point is called ID equals to VSS over RS. So you see this is second condition. Whenever VGS equals to 0, ID equals to VSS over RS. Okay, so whenever VGS equals to 0, so this point you achieve here. And for first condition when ID equals to 0, VGS equals to VSS. So ID is 0 at this point. Okay, so here VDS, if this is VDS line, VDS equals to VSS. So these are the 2 points that you achieve from this condition. And passing through these 2 points, if you draw a line, then in that case you find this line and this Q point can be achieved. In reverse manner, I am doing this exercise. Do you understand whatever I just want to deliver? Like suppose you are studying this common gate configuration. You have drawn this equation, you have written this equation. In this equation, you put first condition ID equals to 0, you will find VGS equals to VSS. So you will find this point. Okay, first point you will find. And if you will put this condition VGS equals to 0, so you will point this point. So once you pointed these two, noted these 2 points, in that case you can draw a straight line passing through these 2 points. And if you will draw a line, then you can draw this line in that manner and you can collect the Q point. So these 2 conditions are applied. 2 conditions are applied to find the Q point. Have you understood? Do you understand this concept? That if you collected first point, second point, and if you draw a straight line, then wherever it will intersect this transfer characteristics, it will be Q point. In the similar manner, here in the case of potential divider biasing, you have applied 2 conditions. Okay, first by applying this first condition, you found this VGS equals to VG. By applying VGS equals to 0, you will find you find this ID equals to VG over RS. Can you draw the characteristics for this potential divider biasing as well?
Yes.
Yes. So let me draw characteristics and let me explain. If you will draw characteristics, suppose I am drawing it here. Okay, this is very easy. This is ID. This is VGS. Okay, and here on this point, this is somewhere. So on the first point, if you apply ID equals to 0, then VGS equals to VG. So whenever ID equals to 0, and this is line. So this line VGS equals to VG, this point you will find somewhere like that. Okay, whenever ID equals to 0, then this will be point on VGS. Because this is positive. VGS equals to VG is positive and VGS is negative side here. So you will point in the positive direction somewhere like that. Okay, and this will be around somewhere you can calculate mathematically. You can calculate it from here. So you can directly point this, locate this point. If you will calculate mathematically from this equation, you can directly put this point here. The second condition, whenever VGS equals to 0, then ID. VGS equals to 0, then ID will be having some value. And mathematically, you can point this point, noted this point here. And after you draw a line, okay, and you just cross this line and view the transfer characteristics. This is BP and this is IDSS. So this will be Q point. Understood? I hope you understood.
Yes, sir.
So similar kind of exercise we are following over here, and fine. And finally, we can apply a trivial equation in the output loop, and we can find the equation. Let me solve one numerical. I think this is 9:30 now. Do you have another class today?
So this is a magnetic material. In fact, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 type of magnetic materials that are involved here. So let's say the first material is having length L and let's say a cross section area A1. And the second material, let's say it has length L2 and corresponding cross section area A2. And then L3 having cross section area A3. And then there is a air gap. Okay, so even through the air, there will be this magnetic lines of forces that will be passing. So therefore, this air gap and its cross section area is also, this cross section area is also taken into consideration. In fact, what happens is, in course of time, I will put before you that when this lines of forces or flux is passing from one medium to the other, let's say it is passing from a region of higher relative permeability to a region of lower relative permeability, just like what we see here. Okay, so here at this point there will be bulging happens, that this lines of forces will get concentrated on a larger area than it was originally. So I'm going to show you that diagram shortly. So time being, keep in mind that the area of cross section will be different when it comes to this particular region. Okay. So this is altogether a composite series magnetic circuit. So one is connected to the other, so that's why we call it as a series. So how do we calculate the reluctance? So we know that the expression for reluctance, which is analogous to the resistance in the electrical network, is L divided by mu naught mu R into A. So this is summation. This is the general formula for reluctance. In fact, you will have to find the reluctance for the individual sections and then add up, as you see here. Okay. So in the case of air, we know that there is mu R is equal to 1. So therefore mu is equal to mu naught. So in all the other cases, the relative permeability mu R should be taken into consideration. Let me proceed further. So how to find the ampere turns? So we know that the expression for H is Ni divided by L. So this we have discussed in the last class. So we have obtained H is equal to Ni by L, and the unit is ampere turns per meter. Okay. So finding Ni will be H into L. If you multiply this L to the left hand side, it becomes H into L. So therefore the ampere turns, in finding ampere turns, you require H and L. So how to do it? So first of all, find H for each portion of the composite circuit. So keep in mind the composite circuit that we have discussed previously. So it has several sections put together, connected serially. So what we need to do, we need to find H for each portion of the composite circuit, and the expression that you can use is H is equal to V divided by mu naught. So from this you will be able to find height, and for air it is mu is equal to mu naught, whereas if you have the other materials as I had shown in the previous page, so you will have B is equal to mu B divided by H is equal to B divided by mu 0 into mu R. So what we need to do, we need to find the ampere turns of each path separately. So we need to find the ampere turns of each path separately by using this relation that is mentioned here. And then we need to add up these ampere turns to get the total ampere turns for the entire circuit. So just like we did for the case of reluctance, we need to do for finding ampere turns as well. So we need to analyze section after section and then add everything together. So that will give us the total ampere turns. So in future we will see if we can take some numerical examples and try to make this concept much more alive. So this is again in continuation with what we have discussed in the last class. So this in fact summarizes whatever we have discussed till now. So in the left hand side you have a magnetic circuit. So here you have a coil which has number of turns n, which is wound at this place, and the current I is passed so that this acts as a magnet, and there will be flux that is passing through this material. So in fact, very shortly I am going to show to you that even there will be some leakage flux. At this point I am not getting into that concept. So imagine that there is a coil wound on this material. So when current flows, so this acts as a magnet, then magnetic flux actually flowing through this material. And so here I have put before you the Ohm's law in the case of electric circuit. So where you have a battery connected across a resistance. So the current will be nothing but EMF divided by resistance. So in the same way, in the case of magnetic circuit, this will be MMF divided by reluctance. So here it is resistance, so here it is reluctance, so here it is EMF, here it is MMF. So here it is current and here it is flux. And the unit for MMF was ampere turns, as we discussed previously, and EMF, the unit is volts. Similarly, here we call it in terms of flux, whereas there in current the unit here is Webers and here it is amperes. And flux density, which is nothing but phi by A. Okay. So phi by A will be the flux density. A is the area. So this flux density B is given by Weber per meter square, and the current density is denoted as ampere per meter square. Okay, so current density, and then reluctance. So as we discussed earlier, so it is denoted by L divided by mu into A. So whereas this mu you can write it as mu naught into mu R. And whereas in the case of electric circuit, the resistance is denoted as R is equal to rho into L by U. So what is this rho? So this is nothing but resistivity. And the inverse of this resistance is conductance, and the inverse of this reluctance is permeance. And we have, just like we have resistivity here, we have relativity. So we'll come back to this concept later on. And permeability is nothing but, so permeability is nothing but the inverse of this relativity. Okay. So the total MMF is nothing but the 5S1 plus 5S2 plus 5S3. Suppose you have a composite circuit, this is in fact dealing with the composite circuit. So where you have different magnetic materials put together in series. So in this case, you will have the you'll have the total MMF is nothing but the summation of the individual sections put together. Okay, so in the same way, if you have different elements in an electrical circuit that are connected in series, then the total voltage drop will be nothing but the voltage drop across individual element. Let's say you have R1, R2, R3 in series. So this is what we get, the total EMF. So in the same way, for the total MMF can be obtained in this way. So this is a brief summary of whatever we have discussed so far. But you should not think that the magnetic circuit works in the same way as that of an electrical circuit, but there are some differences as well that we must be aware of. Thing that you must note that this flux does not flow in the same sense that the current is flowing. Like for example, when a current is flowing, there won't be any leakage if that conducting surface is properly insulated. Let's say in your house and all, you are using wires, but all these wires are properly insulated so that there is no leakage of current that is happening. But in the case of the magnetic circuit, so there is no proper insulator for a magnetic for insulating the magnet even through air. So which is a very good insulator in the case of electrical circuit, does not work in the case of a magnetic circuit, because the magnetic lines of force will be even passing through air to some extent. Okay, so therefore these are some of the differences. So therefore the flux does not actually flow in the same sense that the current flows in the case of the electrical circuit. And second thing that you must notice, so if you are maintaining a constant temperature, okay, at constant temperature, the resistance of the electrical circuit is constant. So this is for the electrical circuit. But you must note that the reluctance of the magnetic circuit depends on flux. Another difference that you must notice, that the flow of current in the electrical circuit, it involves continuous spending of energy. But in the case of magnetic circuit, the energy is required only when creating the flux. The energy is required only when you are creating the flux initially, and it is not for maintaining it. So these are some of the differences that you must note. So let us discuss one couple of more concepts. So the term leakage flux, you must understand that it's a very subjective term. It again depends on the applications where you are actually defining this particular leakage flux. So if at all the flux is flowing through a path which is not meant for it for flowing, so then we can call that particular flux to be leakage flux. Okay, so suppose if the flux is flowing through a path which is not intended for it, so then we can call that particular flux as leakage flux. So here, so in this application, so they wanted some flux to pass through this air gap. Okay, so this is an iron ring which is wounded by a coil. So let's say it has N turns and the current I flows through this coil. So this is marked as the leakage flux. Okay, so this is marked as a leakage flux, which means that the intended flow of flux should be along this iron ring, but what is happening is that some of these flux lines are trying to complete the circuit by actually flowing in this direction using this gap. Okay, so this is considered as the leakage flux. So whereas this is the useful flux. So here what is happening? So here there is another phenomenon that is going on. So which we can call it as fringing. So what is happening here is something called fringing. So before that, let us discuss in detail about what this leakage flux is. So I will take another example. So let this be, and I will take another example. So let's say this is made of iron, and so here I have one more winding which I can call it as a secondary winding. So the EMF that is produced here will be actually proportional to the number of turns as well as the rate of change of flux, so that you are aware of. So these are the flux lines. Okay, so let's say this is my intended path. Okay, so this is my intended path, and but instead of flowing through this intended path, let's say some of these flux lines, they complete the circuit in this way. Okay, So in this case, we can call this to be the leakage flux. So this is the leakage flux and this is the useful flux. Okay, and the total flux is nothing but the sum of the useful flux as well as the leakage flux. Okay. The total flux is sum of your leakage flux plus useful flux. So why this leakage flux is happening? You see here in the case of electrical circuit, so it is very easy to bind the or to prevent the leakage of current. Whereas, so there is no known insulator for magnetic flux. So though it is possible to confine most of the flux in this iron rod, but still some portion of this will be leaking in this way. So let us So there is one quantity which we can define based on this concept, which is called leakage coefficient, which is given by total flux divided by useful flux. So this is denoted as lambda. So how to minimize the leakage? So how to minimize the leakage? So one traditional way of minimizing this leakage is by placing these exciting coils close to the points in the magnetic circuit, so where the flux has to be utilized. Okay, so suppose you are assume that you consider the previous case, particular diagram. So if you want to utilize the flux in this particular area, so then it is advisable to have this winding as close to this particular area, so that there is so this much leakage can be actually minimized. So that is one traditional way. So one more concept we need to discuss, that is fringing. So this fringing can be observed as I have shown in this diagram itself. Okay. So fringing. So what happens? So whenever this line of forces, it is traveling from a medium to another medium. Let's say due to a change in the relative permeability between this medium, mu r will be different here and here. Okay, so what happens is that the bulging effect will be observed. So at the region of lower value of mu r, So let us say this is iron. This is iron, and let's say this is air. Okay. So this mu r for iron will be much higher compared to the mu r for air. Okay. So in the case of iron, so this magnetic flux will be passing so easily. So whereas here in this case, in the case of air, it will be relatively less compared to this iron rod or this iron ring. Okay. So in this particular place, so where there is a change in this medium, so there will be a bulging effect happening. So if you look at the effective cross section area here, it will be less compared to this area where there is bulging, or this air gap where there is bulging. So what will happen to the flux density? This is phi divided by A. So when A increases, obviously B will decrease. So it means that reduced flux density will be observed. So when this is happening, you will observe reduced flux density. So the last topic that I want to discuss today is BH curve. So you would have done this experiment both in your physics laboratories as well as in other laboratories. You would have done this BH curve experiment. So which is basically a graph drawn between H and B. Okay. So you know very well that the magnetic flux density is phi by A. Okay. So it is actually a graph between the flux density and the field intensity. So this is magnetic field intensity H and magnetic flux density. So this B is equal to phi by A, and it's Weber per meter square or Tesla, so that is the unit. And we also know that I is equal to Ni divided by L, ampere. So this is Weber per meter square. So this is ampere turns per meter. Okay. So we know that this B is equal to mu into H, or in other words, we can also say that this B is proportional to H, or you can write B is equal to mu 0 mu R into H. So what is, so for air or vacuum, mu r is equal to 1 for air or vacuum. So therefore mu is equal to mu r naught. So in this case, so whereas for the other materials, so there will be a particular value of mu r based on which this curve will also change. Okay, so what happens practically that whenever a material is supplied, so manufacturer also supplies the BH curve of the material, so that when you actually know this N, I and L, so you'll be able to find height. So when you know height, you'll be able to find B from the given curve. Okay, so this curve will be mostly supplied by the manufacturer. So when you know N, I and L, so you can find B from the curve itself. Now we need to study how we can actually draw this curve. Okay, so further some more things I want to discuss. So if you look at this expression for height, so the number of turns, so this is not going to change, it's a constant, whereas this length L is not going to change. So I can write that this height is proportional to I. So this is one thing you must note, and this is another thing that you must note. So okay, so what happens when I change I? Height will change. So when heights change, obviously B will also change. But something interesting you can observe. So when this magnetizing and demagnetizing happens over and over again, so there is this hysteresis phenomenon that is happening. So this hysteresis actually comes from the Greek word. This word hysteresis itself, it's a Greek word which means lagging behind. So initially, let's say you are increasing the value of I, and what happens? Height will increase accordingly, and initially the graph goes in this direction. Okay, so this is where it actually starts. Okay, so here everything is okay until this point. So at a particular point, what happens? So when you keep on increasing the magnetizing current, so after a particular point, there won't be any further increase in B to such an extent that there will be a saturation that will be observed. Okay, so exactly at that point where that saturation is about to start, you need to stop taking the readings. So from this, you have to now reverse the operation, whatever you have done so far. So here we have actually kept increasing the I. So ideally, when I start decreasing I, what am I expecting? I am expecting something like this. So when I decrease, I am expecting something like this to happen, because it was increasing here. When I was increasing I, it must decrease in the same direction when I decrease I, but this doesn't happen. So instead of this, what I will be observing is, so what we will be observing is, when you decrease I, or in turns decreasing height, what will happen? So this B will be decreasing, but it will be lagging behind this height. So this is where this hysteresis happened. Okay. So when height is 0, so let's say this is 0, so there will be still some value of B that will be noticed. Okay, so in this remaining value of B, we can call it as remnants. So it's the name itself makes it very clear. It is a measure of the remaining magnetization when the driving field is dropped to 0. The driving field is now 0, but still you will find remnants of the magnetization that is still be observed. Okay, so this is called remnants. And then, so how to eliminate this? So for that, you need to apply this force in the negative direction. Okay, so you need to observe it in the negative direction. So that is how you can actually eliminate this. So when you do that, at a particular point of time, when you actually take this height in the negative direction, so that is where. So this is done by actually reversing this I. So you will measure, you will notice that at a particular point, this B also becomes 0. So that is where you can measure this coercivity. It is a measure of the reverse field needed to drive the magnetization to 0 after being saturated. Okay. So here it was saturated, and then after saturation, so if you are actually reversing I, so at that particular point it will become 0. So that point is where you need to measure the coercivity. Okay. And when you further decrease this height, what happens is that you will notice that B again decreases to a particular point where it will reach the negative saturation. Okay. So here again a negative saturation is noticed, and then any further decrease in height will never cause any decrease in B at this particular point. So now when you again reverse it, so the graph actually goes in this direction. So ultimately you get a hysteresis loop. Okay, so we started here, and we obtained a loop. So this is about the BH curve. And let us see a couple of examples of how the BH curve actually appears for different materials. So we use the same symbol. So here you have a very, very broad BH curve. So where this broad BH curve will be required. So this is where is required when you are actually going for permanent magnets, or you are going for some magnetic recording or memory devices where you want to retain the magnetization that has happened. Okay, so here, so even for a huge decrease in height, you will notice that the B has not dropped much. So very little change in B that you are noticing. So it retains a large fraction of the saturation field when the driving field is removed. So most part of B is still retained, you will notice here. Okay. So here what is happening? So this is relatively thin. So the area of the hysteresis loop is related to the amount of energy dissipation. So this area that you see inside this hysteresis loop, so this gives us the area of the amount of energy dissipation that has happened. So this is again something medium, and here you have a very narrow hysteresis loop. So here what happens for even for a small decrease in height, you will notice a very sharp fall in B. So where we are in need of this type of hysteresis curve. So we are in need when we are actually using it in AC electrical appliances. So where we don't want much hysteresis loss. So in that case, we can go for we can use materials which has a narrow hysteresis loop. Okay. So again, depending on the application, So we can select a material, and this BH curve gives an idea about how this material will behave when it is subjected to repeated magnetizing and demagnetizing. So it is this. So here you have two materials. So in the first material, so you see here is a single block, as you see here. So here you have multiple blocks put together. You can see that there are multiple blocks put together, and then we are obtaining the same size, more or less the same size as this. Okay, more or less the same size of this is obtained by putting together multiple materials. So the reason for doing this is to minimize the eddy current loss, because these eddy currents are actually continuous motion of currents that you see here. So due to this nature of their flow, so this repetition, so this is what that's the reason why we call it as eddy currents. Okay, and these eddy currents are found on the surface. So the key for reducing the eddy current is to reduce the surface area. So that is what has been done in the right side. So they have actually reduced the surface area, and the nature of this eddy current is not desirable, because it will actually oppose the cause that has produced this eddy current. Okay. So